It's a great day for Edward Waters College. This is, of course, the first time we had appellate court sitting here on the campus of Edward Waters College. If I was going to put this in the most common vernacular, I would say you're not going to find many instances where an official court of the state of Florida will come to the hood to hold a session. I really want to commend all of these participating panelists, the judges, the litigants, for not seeing that as robbery to come to this community. And certainly I wanted to make certain that I expressed those thoughts.
Good morning, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Scott Makar with the First District Court of Appeal. When Sheriff Glover picked up the phone and dialed my number a month or two back and said, "Could your court sit at our campus?" I thought, that's a stroke of brilliance. It was a wonderful idea, and I'm glad we've now brought it to fruition and that our court has now heard a case here, setting a point of history on this campus. It's a great forum, a great place for us to be to hear these kind of cases. So we're going to have a general discussion about various issues that the panelists want to talk about, and then we're going to open it up towards the end to questions you might have. We're going to start with President Glover, who has some general comments and some general thoughts on his mind, and we'll start there.
I'm always a little concerned about this widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, and it permeates our society everywhere. And me being in the field of education now, I want to kind of close that gap as much as I can do. One of the things I talk a whole lot about is making education accessible to poor kids and people who would not ordinarily get the opportunity to go to college. And we need to be creative in how we approach that. How do we make the criminal justice system work better for poor people? We heard an argument before an appellate court this morning. And as you know, that's sometimes could be a very expensive process where poor people get the opportunity to hire a kind of legal counsel to help them through the process. And I think some of that is incumbent upon the system to respond to that. What are we doing to help people have access to the court system? We can take the public defender. It's a great system and it's a big help. But beyond that, I think poor people are still disproportionately represented in the prison system because of a lack of appropriate and adequate counsel. How do we address that?
President Glover, that's a wonderful question. And there's a concept within the law called pro bono publico. It's for the public good. Lawyers have an obligation to assure access to justice. Part of that obligation is a duty to represent people for free when they cannot afford to hire a lawyer. The Florida Bar is the organization that regulates lawyers. The Florida Bar says that a lawyer should have a goal of doing 20 hours of legal services a year for free for poor people, and to do 50 hours of community service, hopefully related to access to justice. That's not very many hours, but Florida lawyers provide tens of thousands of hours of pro bono service. As a wonderful example of pro bono service, Judge Makar referenced Brian Gowdy's case before the United States Supreme Court. He did did that case pro bono for free. He spent hundreds and hundreds of his hours he could have billed clients that would have paid him. So he was taking money out of his pocket, in effect, because he thought the law was wrong, and he won. But it wasn't just being paid. It was he did it because it was important that there be access to justice and the law be right. And that really is what being a lawyer is all about. If you've got that aspiration, being a lawyer can be a public service. Sure, there are lawyers that are there to make money, but there are many, many lawyers who really enjoy doing pro bono and other public services. So it's not enough, President Glover, to solve the problem. But frankly, it's going to take the government to provide more funding to provide access to justice. The legal system can do a lot, it can do more, but we need systemic changes. The Florida Bar is now studying how to do some of these systemic changes to increase access to justice. And Mr. Gowdy and I are on a study committee looking at that. So I may come pick your brain, sir, and use your wealth of experience.
And I think what Judge Van Norwood said about the pro bono service for lawyers is very, very important. And I don't think I can add too much to it, but I think I would agree with what he was also indicating, that there has to be other solutions outside of that. And if any of you can access the Miami Herald this morning online, there's a great editorial which I think really affects a lot of people in this room, which is how our policies have changed with respect to kids in the school system. That we have had a shift in the last 15 years where we have probably used the criminal justice system too much to solve discipline problems in the school system. There's certainly very serious offenses that go on in school that you do need the criminal justice system involved in, but there's also probably a fair number of those problems that used to be 30, 40 years ago were resolved without getting kids involved in the criminal justice system. But the more and more people we put through the criminal justice system, there is a huge cost to that. I think we have to think smart about how we make our society safe. That's paramount. We do so in a way that we don't have so many people going through the criminal justice system, especially kids. It has harmful long-term detrimental impact on their lives.
I want to follow up with, and I'm going to still call him Sheriff, because that's what I remember Sheriff Glover as, but what's important for you all is what you do with your lives. I was fortunate when I was 4 years old to come to this country. My parents put me on a plane, and I never saw them again. I was born in Cuba. They put me on a plane, and I was fortunate to come to this country. And I was dirt poor, and I was able to go to school, and then I was able to go to law school. My point is, this country allows everyone to have an opportunity, but it's what you do with it that counts. So take advantage of every opportunity that you get, and education being the most important one, and run with it. Don't let everybody ever hold you back. You can make it. It's your attitude that counts the most.
As we stand here, every moment that goes by is the only moment in our life that we have. That moment's gone. And what you do with your time is so important. Life is short and fleeting, and you should get a goal of getting 110% out of every moment of your life. But you make the best of it, and you keep moving the ball forward and up the hill and getting as much experience out of every job that you can, because you're going to use it somewhere down the road.
I went to law school not knowing exactly what I wanted to do when I got out, but I always thought I'd be a prosecutor, never thought I'd be a criminal defense attorney. I grew up in a house that was kind of a law and order household, and I told Bernie the other day that his first boss was my Sunday school teacher, so I thought I was going to be a prosecutor, but then I interned in the public defender's office in Gainesville, and I really, really enjoyed doing criminal defense work. So that then when I graduated, I decided I would try to get a job back here in Jacksonville where I went to high school, and I got a job here in the public defender's office. And then after 5 years, I went into private practice, but the most fun I ever had was still working in the public defender's office. So after 20 years of private practice, I had an opportunity to come back and work in the PD's office, and I did that 5 years ago. So that's why I'm back over
That
there.
is one of the major cases out of Florida that went to the U.S. Supreme Court was Gideon versus Wainwright. Has anyone ever heard of Gideon versus Wainwright? It was a case that established the right to legal counsel provided for free to indigents. And many states at the time were not providing it, many were, but Florida wasn't. And the U.S. Supreme Court held that that's an obligation. And the public defender system in Florida was the result of that. We now have a funded public defender system.
I'm originally from Tallahassee. I don't know if you know where Tallahassee is. I was born and raised there. I grew up during the 60s. And as some of you know, in school, close to my age, and you know what it was like during the 60s. So I went to experience something that was different for college. And I went all the way out to Montana for undergraduate school. And I probably wondered, God, how do you make it all the way out there? But it was just to experience something different, and experience new horizons. I went out there not knowing what I was going to do, but I wanted to see things differently, experience different horizons, and I had a host family out there who happened to be a lawyer. And being that their family took me in and showed me things differently than I experienced growing up in Tallahassee during the 60s. It really helped broaden my horizons. And I made me want to become a lawyer as well. I ended up returning back to Tallahassee to FSU to get my law degree. And I encourage you to find mentors and find people that can be role models for you that can assist you and motivate you. And it helped motivate me, that experience, to be all that I can be. And also knowing that, hey, he's a lawyer, I can be a lawyer too. He's a judge, I can be a judge too. As one of the assistants said, it's all about motivating yourself. It's all about doing your best, giving it your best. And you can be what you want to be. It's up to you to establish those goals and also work toward achieving your goals, because you can do it.
When you look back on your life, everybody has multiple decision points where they make a decision and their life takes a 90-degree turn. You don't know where you're going to be or whether that was a good decision until later. But those decisions start at a very young age, and some of them are very small. Do I go out with my friends or do I do my homework? That's one of those decisions. Do I really take a difficult class, but a class I know will make me think? That's another one of those decisions. Do I apply to college? It may be difficult financially, and where I apply, because that may make a big difference in your life. So I think each of these little decisions, when you reach a point that you're thinking about doing something, that could be a turning point in your life. So you need to make each of those decisions in a very thoughtful way, and the earlier you start thinking about the consequences of your decisions, I think the better off you are. A lot of us realize when we're in our 20s that we've made a whole series of very bad decisions, and it's put us in a position that we have limited our options. And that's not a good position to be in. So I think with the hindsight, since, as Judge Makar said, I'm obviously an old guy here, looking back, I can see a number of those. I was fortunate because I ended up in a wonderful place, but to take advantage of that insight and make each decision the best it can be.
There's not one person up here who has been afforded the privilege to serve in the capacity that they serve simply because of their own ability. The good Lord has put people in our paths that have benefited us, whether they be mentors, whether they be parents, whether they be other individuals that we aspire to model. And so my encouragement to you is don't believe that all the pressure falls only to you. You have gifts all around you. My encouragement to you is to understand and take very carefully, consider very carefully the opportunities that are presented to you. The reality of it is I would even take it a step further. Am I going to be associated or allow somebody to be a friend if they are going to walk me down a path from which I may face a decision point and I take a wrong turn? My encouragement to you is be very careful who you allow your friends to be, how they influence you. And that doesn't stop in K through 8th grade. It doesn't stop when you graduate high school. It will go on in your life to where you go and you've decided you want to run for an opportunity to serve, and you sit down with Sheriff Glover, and he provides you guidance and advice from his experience and his years, as he did for me. And those sorts of things, Sheriff, are never forgotten.
You guys now have Facebook, all that other stuff. Be careful what you put on there, because they're forever.
And we check Facebook. If you apply for a job, we check your Facebook page. If you have to give a deposition, I'm going to check you out on Facebook or Google you before I take your deposition. So it's all there.